right, guys, so it's time. We are going to start working on the 2J build. Okay, so I know I mentioned this probably a few months back. We picked up this 2J block, okay, it came with a crank and a GE head. Okay, so this was the non-turbo, not GTE, it's the GE head. So I got the whole package deal for 500 bucks. So the way prices are going right now, I think I did pretty good. The block is in pretty good shape. It's gonna need oversized pistons. It is standard bore right now, which is good. And there's some grooves in this piston, in this hole here. There's a pretty deep little groove right there. So I think a 0.5 millimeter oversize would probably clean it up really good. But so we have a few, and also the crank needs to be turned too. So there was one journal, I forget which one it was, maybe this one. Oh no, right here, you can see the aluminum on it. All right, there's a little bit of aluminum on there, so it spun a bearing and kind of scarred it up pretty good. So I'll have that turned 10 under 2 and just get a bigger sized bearing. And that's not a big deal. That's a pretty fairly common practice people do to get those, refurbish those. But what's funny is that my last video or the video before, I'm not sure, a guy contacted me from this company, MaXpeedingrods, okay? And I have never heard of this company. This is the first I've ever heard of this company. So he contacted me and he wanted me to do a review on one of his products. And he's like, hey, what would you be needing that you would like to review? And I'm like, it just so happens that, I went up, well, first thing I did was I went on his website and just to see what he had, or that company had. And the only thing that really kind of caught my eye was the rods. I don't need a turbo. He sells a bunch of other stuff too, like coilovers and all kinds of turbo stuff. And I didn't really go through the whole website, but they have quite a bit of stuff. So I said that the rods would probably be the only thing I could use, and it just so happened that I was starting this build, okay? Starting this 2J build. And so he's like, you know what? I'll send you a set of rods and you can review them and do a video on them. So, hey, I didn't pay anything for them. This is totally on them. They sent them to me to review. So I figured, I'm very open-minded. I'm not, I know that these are made in China. I've done a little research, and these are 100% made in China. So, as far as that goes, I don't like discriminate against stuff like that. I try to buy American stuff, but if you look at like a lot of the like scat rods or eagle rods, they're all made in China. Okay, they're all produced over there. They bring them over here and finish them up. So, I don't want to really get into that side of the argument of where it's made. To me, it doesn't really matter. So what did I do? As soon as he contacted me and I started doing a little research on him, I immediately went to YouTube to see other reviews on them. Okay, and there was a few other people reviewed these rods. Okay, but the one thing I noticed was there was just reviews. Okay, there was no actual here I put it in the motor. I put 40 pounds of boost to it, and this is what it did. Okay, there are no videos like that. And consequently, there's no failure videos. Okay, so I couldn't find any failures either. So I guess that's a good thing, or it's just the case is that there's nobody that put these into practice and did a video on it, or had a failure. So I'm pretty much in the dark on these. I don't know. But what we can do is we can look at them. We can compare them to, I have a stock rod here. Now this is a 1J rod. Okay, that's a 1JZ rod, but and it's a GTE. They're the same thing, okay? They're the same as a 2J rod. They're just slightly shorter, okay? That's the only difference. The pins are the same. I believe, I'm not 100% sure. Yep, look at that. The pistons are the same bore. So I don't think it's the same piston though, because I believe the height is different. So your pin would be, up in this area, I think. So more of like, because it's a longer stroke. So you would need to move the pin, I believe. That I'm not 100% sure of. We still need to figure out what pistons we're gonna use. But what I can tell you is this: if you subscribe to my channel in probably a few months, I don't know, I will put 40 to 45 pounds of boost on these rods and see what happens. I'm gonna test them for real, okay? No, I mean, I'll give you a review right now and I'll tell you what I think of them, but I'm gonna see if they come apart with some serious power, okay? I plan on making 1,000 horsepower with this motor. That's, you know, at least 1,000 horsepower. So these rods say they're rated to 800, but I know that that's probably conservative, and a lot of you know, rod braking, and it's all tuning issues, okay? People blame parts for failures, but it's 75 to 80% of the time it's tuning, okay? Detonation is what will kill rods, kill bearings, melt holes in pistons, you name it, okay? It's detonation that does that. Bad fuel, bad, you know, a bad tune, too much timing, you know, the list goes on. But anyway, let me go ahead and unbox this. I've already taken it apart and I've taken a look at one, but I'll go through it with you guys. Let me add this here. All right, oh, and we'll check like pin fit and all that just to see. They come in a pretty nice pack. I mean, it's packed with some styrofoam, you know, packing, and wrapped in this plastic. And then they use this like oil infused wrap. So keeps them nice and keeps them from rusting. So yeah, here's the rod. I mean, it's a rod, you know. For me to sit here and say, okay, this rod is strong, or this rod, it will work to this by me looking at it, or anybody else on YouTube telling you that this rod is a good rod without actually testing it, I wouldn't believe it, okay? You cannot tell by just looking at it. You can't say, yep, that's a good rod. You just can't, you know. We need to test it. We need to put it in a motor, put some power to it, see how they perform, okay? But, you know, let's go over just some of the basics. I mean, it does have, some of the other videos I looked at, they were talking about the rod bolts, okay? The ARP 2000 rod bolts. And apparently the research has been done, so I'm not gonna do it, but someone apparently contacted ARP and found out that they do supply this company with the ARP 2000 bolts. So take that for what it's worth. That's third-party information, so I'm putting it out there, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But it does have, you know, like I said, ARP 2000 bolts. I'm not gonna probably won't be able to get too many close-ups on the rod because of, you know, GoPros aren't good for that, but you can kind of take a look at it. Just feeling the rod, it feels good. I mean, it feels no burrs or anything. Like it feels like it's been deburred and shot peened. And you know, like the bushings look really good. They've been honed. You can see the cross hatching in the bushing. So, and then here too, you can see the cross hatching here. I do have some like measuring tools. We can go ahead and measure it just to see how consistent it is and compare it to this stock rod. This stock rod has the same, you know, size bushing end, or the piston pin end. They're the same size, so we can compare the size on that. We can compare the size of the big end too, because that's the same. I'm assuming it uses the same bearings. I'm not 100% sure of that, but we can check that in a second. So yeah, I mean, ARP 2000 bolts, your typical H-beam. What else? It's got like a groove, okay? I don't know if you can see that or not in there, but it's got like a groove for oil. I guess that helps oil the pin. I'm not 100% sure. So they give you some information on it too. Basically, this looks like it's copy and pasted off ARP's website on the on what you should torque the bolts to. Okay, so ARP 2000, I believe these are the 3/8 by 1.6 45 foot-pounds. And you can also, look here, it's got the L19 bolts you can use. So those are the same at 45 foot-pounds. So it does come with some upgraded hardware you could, get with it, but these are just the regular ARP 2000s. So yeah, I mean, these are also made of 340 chromoly. So that's a good thing. That's real strong. That's like a pretty well standard material they use for these rods. Okay guys, so we got all the rods out sitting here on the table. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, so let's start off with what a stock rod weighs. This is a stock 1JZ rod. Now I know that, like I said, this is going to be different. That's not a 2J rod, that's a 1J rod. So let's see what it is in grams. 763 grams for the stock 1JZ rod. This one is 594. Let's try this one. 594. 594. 594. 594. And the last one, I'm guessing it's 594. So, okay. So every single rod weighs exactly the same. My scale is not the most accurate, so it doesn't go down to points. I don't like percentages of grams. So the worst it could be is a partial percent of a gram. So we'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to really worry too much about the weight on these, but they are significantly lighter, than a stock 1J rod. So I'm guessing that, I mean, the bearing is still in here. So let me take the bearing off. So now let's see what it weighs. 100 grams. So 725. So not much less. It's still a much heavier rod. Okay. So yeah. But H-beam is a different design. It's a much stronger way to make a rod. So it's a proven thing. I mean, they've been making H-beams for a long time. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let me grab some measuring tools and I'll kind of measure the pins, measure the big ends, and see where those are. But then after that, beyond that, I'm not going to just continue to say these are good rods or bad rods. I have no idea. There's just no way to look at it and tell you that it's good or bad. I watched a really good video put out by CP Carrillo. They have a little YouTube channel and it's a few years old, I think, but it shows where all the stresses are on the rods during the compression stroke, the downstroke and the upstroke. It shows like in different colors. Maybe I'll put a link in the description of that video, but you can easily search it. If you just search for CP Carrillo rods, it shows that so much of the stress on these rods is right in this area here. You can see how like the most lit up area where there's the most stress is right through this area. Okay. So rod bolts are very important. Okay. So, if this is the area where you get most of the stress, the stress, that's where the rod bolt is. Okay. But, oh, and also up and around the, this little boss area here, there's quite a bit of stress too. So here and here is all the stress. Like you would think it was here, but it's really not. It's in the, I don't know why, but it is in these areas here. Okay. So let me get some measuring tools and we'll just measure them really quick. But after that, we're going to move on to the build itself. So you open it, it just pops open and then you tighten it. And then once you do that, you just give it a measure. 2.164. All right, let's try this one. Two point 16563 2.165 2.165 on that one. Let me redo this one. Oh, and by the way, I don't have this one torqued. I don't know how tight this one is, so you know, that little extra may be from that. So like I said, don't take too much in, read too much into this. These aren't even that great of tools. I mean, these aren't really engine building tools. I mean, these are more for a machine shop. No, there it goes. 266, 264, 265. Okay, so I mean, they're very close to one another, okay? Both sizes. But, you know, when you crush the bearing, you got to check all that anyway. I mean, so pretty much what I'm going to do is I'll buy the bearings, okay? The oversized bearings, take that to the machine shop. They're going to size it to, you know, they'll crush it in here, or they'll tighten it in here. Take a measurement and then size the crank to that. Okay, so I'm not that concerned about these dimensions. Okay, the pin, okay, let's check the pin. This is a stock pin, comes in at 866 thousandths. I'll do the same thing. I just need to get a smaller, that one. Okay. All right, let's measure that. 8675, and then let's do this one. Now on these you got to measure on the ends because you have to remember it has that groove in there, so you don't want to measure that. Eight, 6, 7. Which, okay, so this one was 8675 and this one was 867, which makes total sense because this has been run, you know, this has had the pin running in it for whoever knows how many miles, okay, over and over and over, so it's opened up a little bit. So this one's a little bit tighter, but yeah, I can even tell it's tighter, so I'm not really gonna, I don't want to go ahead and try to put this in there without being oiled, or I haven't cleaned anything, so I'm not gonna try and put it in there. But that's another thing where if it is a little off, if it's a little under, that's good, you know, because we can have the machine shop hone that. You can get this honed to be perfect for your tolerances on that. So machining wise, it's good. I mean, as far as that goes, there's no issues there. Now, I'm not going to go through every single rod. I've only done one. So if there's a problem with one of them, you know, you're not gonna see that in this video, but I'll let you guys know if I do find an issue with that, because I'm gonna be doing a lot more videos on this actual build, okay? But so that's pretty much all I can really say about these rods. They look good. The only complaint, and I heard this in another video, okay, was there's a sharp edge right here, where they, and it doesn't even look that sharp to me. So yeah, people were saying that there was a sharp edge like right here where it was machined, but honestly, that's nothing. I don't think that's not going to be a big deal at all. I mean, people talk about stress fractures and like I don't know. I don't really think that's going to be a thing. I mean, the part is actually really well finished. So, okay guys, that's pretty much gonna do it on what I'm gonna say about these rods. Because like I said in the beginning of the video, I can sit here and look at them and tell you they're great, but I don't know for sure until we try them out. And I get into the machine shop and the machine shop has to hone them or, you know, size the bearings to the crank and all that. And let's see what his opinion is too. This is just my uneducated opinion. They look good. That's all I can really say. So, all right, moving on. We have a decision to make on what cylinder head we're going to use on this motor, okay? So I have a few options I can go with. This is a 1JZ GTE head, non-VVTi, okay? It has 2J cams in it, okay? So these were, I guess they were machined to fit into a 1J head, but these are 2JZ cams, okay? Everything's in really good shape on this. This is a head I started porting about a year and a half ago. I have a few videos on that. I ported the intake. Yeah, and I have some more parts over here for that motor. The cam gears and all that. That's another motor I paid 500 bucks for. So that was a steal, okay? Because a 1JZ GTE head right now, I could probably sell that for, I could probably double my money, you know, and these valve covers, nothing broken on the valve covers. Those valve covers are like $500 alone. Anyway, so we have that, okay? We could use that. We could use this GE head, okay, which is gonna take a little more doing. It's gonna be a little more expensive to do because I would have to buy an intake. I don't have an intake. I don't have valve covers. Valve covers aren't cheap. We would have to block off the distributor, figure out some kind of a cam gear or a cam sensor. We would have to do, we're gonna have to do this anyway. We're gonna have to do a crank sensor, which I believe I have one over here. I have so many parts that are just laying around. Anyway, I have a bunch of parts there. I think I have a crank gear for the crank. So like I said, this would need a little more done to it. It would need cams, like this already has cams. It would need an exhaust manifold. We would also need an exhaust manifold for that. But I mean, as far as the head itself, I mean, you can see that's the 1J, that's the GE 2J. This is the exhaust. The exhausts are huge, okay? Those, you can see by my finger here, that's the exhaust valve, or the exhaust port, I should say, there. And here's the exhaust port here. You can see the difference. That's like an oval shape. And this is much bigger. You know, obviously this is NA, so they wanted a more flowing exhaust. But anyway, or option 3 would be to just use this head, the 1JZ VVTi head, and that way I have a manifold, I have the intake, everything fits. I may have to adjust the intercooler piping because of the height, because the deck on this is about, I don't know, an inch taller than if I go by the rod is about an inch taller, okay? So if you kind of line this up, you can see it's about an inch, maybe a ½ inch. So the deck may be like a ½ inch taller than a 1J deck. That's pretty much the only difference. And the crank's different though too for the longer stroke. But so yeah, that's where we're at. That's my options. I have some decisions to make. You know, I'll just keep looking for parts and everything. I am leaning towards this option here because of having valve covers, having cams, having, you know, the intake is done. It's already been ported. I have cam gears. I have I have the rest of the intake too. So that would be an economical option, and it's ported. This would be the most economical option, obviously. I could just bolt all this right onto there and be done with it. I know there's a couple things you have to do to line up the oil port or the water port. I think you have to line up the water port here on that head. So you weld it and then you reposition the water port, but I'm not 100% sure of that. Okay guys, so that's pretty much gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you learned something, got something out of this. You know, we won't know for sure until we put them in the motor, try it out, see what happens, and then I'll report back. So, but anyway, before I forget, they sent me a link to, I'll put in the description below, that it's JZ Fox. Now I'll put it on the screen here too. You can use that code and get % off. I mean, I get nothing, so I don't care, you know, it's just for you guys. If you guys want to order any parts, you know, order any of these rods, use that code and you get a discount. So I'll put everything in the description below. And if you guys got any questions, let me know. There's also a phone number on their website you can call for any info. But other than that, that's gonna do it, guys. Check y'all later.